Beacon Press Audio presents Redemption, Martin Luther King Jr.'s Last 31 Hours by Joseph Rosenbloom. This audiobook is narrated by J.D. Jackson, published by Beacon Press Audio 2018. Preface. During the summer of 1968, I had a reporter's internship at the Commercial Appeal, the morning daily in Memphis. The city was then trying to right itself from the shock and horror of the assassination on April 4th of Martin Luther King Jr. In the newsroom, amid the cigarette smoke and brass spittoons, there was much talk about the events leading to King's murder. In my mind, I filed away an idea. Someday, maybe, I would look into what happened in Memphis leading to the violent finale to King's life. It took me 40 years to get around to it. By then, I had read a number of biographies of King. They typically included a chapter or two about his last days in Memphis. Some books scarcely dealt with King's presence in Memphis at all except as a backdrop to their actual subject, the story of King's assassin, James Earl Ray. The books about Ray homed in on two questions. Why did he kill King? Did he conspire with others in a plot to assassinate him? Exhaustive investigations by the FBI, a task force of the Justice Department, the U.S. House Select Committee on Assassinations, and authors such as George McMillan and Gerald Posner were never able to nail down a definitive motive. Why Ray killed King probably will always remain a mystery. He was a virulent racist. Perhaps that was motive enough. The House panel relied on circumstantial evidence to conclude, vaguely, that there likely was a conspiracy. It pointed to Ray's brothers John and Jerry as possible co-conspirators, but no clear-cut proof of a conspiracy has ever emerged. The published accounts dealing with Memphis followed a broad storyline. They told how, by April 1968, King was pursuing perhaps the most ambitious undertaking of his life, the Poor People's Campaign. No longer was he seeking only an end to racial segregation and discrimination, the cause that had consumed him for more than a decade. He was striving to end poverty in America once and for all. He was mobilizing thousands of poor people to set up a shantytown in Washington, D.C. He was vowing to lead his army of poor people for weeks, if not months, of civil disobedience in the streets and offices of federal lawmakers until they adopted a costly, sweeping anti-poverty program. When the biographies of King reached the chapters about Memphis, the storyline centered on four consequential days: March 18th and 28th, and April 3rd and 4th. He was in Memphis on March 18th to speak at a rally in support of a garbage workers' strike. On March 28th, he was back in Memphis leading a pro-strike march, which turned into a riot. On April 3rd, he flew back, having resolved to organize a peaceful march. If he could stage a second march without another riot, he thought he could prove that his brand of nonviolent protest remained under his control. Unless he reasserted his leadership in that way, his plan to recruit a legion of poor people to protest nonviolently in the nation's capital was in jeopardy. Or so he reasoned. On April 4th, he was murdered, snuffing out his plans for a redemptive march and the Poor People's Campaign. I did not see any point in looking into the much-investigated question of whether Ray had conspired with others to kill King. I sensed that there was more to say about how events in Memphis might have conspired to obstruct King's plans as he returned to the city in 1968. During a 10-year stint as a staff reporter for Frontline, the investigative documentary series on PBS, I developed a reflexive skepticism toward any supposed final word about a major public figure or event. Often, the digging at Frontline uncovered new layers of revelation and understanding about stories that others had already put to bed. On that hunch, I resolved to delve further into the Memphis story. I had grown up relatively close in Jackson, Tennessee. On visits to my family, I took the opportunity to stop by Memphis and continue my inquiry into King's last hours. I interviewed more than 24 people.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?